Good now, revolutionaries, and welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show. Today is Monday, July 28th, and we are so glad to be back. We're finally back. It feels like it's been forever, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it feels. What are the cliches? It feels like just yesterday, but also 10 years ago. Or
it feels like just yesterday. It feels like forever. It feels just like the first time. And so much has happened since we've been gone.
I know, it was a hell of a week.
It was a hell of a week. We got a lot of stuff. First of all, probably most notably for all of our friends listening, the Genius Act was signed into law. We've got the Clarity Act being split up and sent to two different Senate committees, hot on its heels. We had Bitcoin and other assets show continued strength. Lots of good stuff happening in the crypto space. And in the real world, aka offline, it was like everybody was dying. So rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne, and also Hulk Hogan. No, it's okay, Hulk. I'm good. I couldn't find a hell yeah brother sound for the board, so this is the best I could do.
Did you just play something that didn't make any sound?
Oh man, you guys don't have the computer audio. Oh, I have to turn it off for the echo. All you got to know is there's a Hulk Hogan soundboard out there in the world, and there's an Ozzy Osbourne soundboard out there too. In fact, if you go to 101soundboards.com, you can find a soundboard for just about everybody. The sound clip said, "Here's a little tip from heaven, brother." And then the other one I played said, "Hey, brother, this is the Hulk. I'm in heaven. Sorry, I'm dead." But really, there's a soundboard for everything.
I'd rather have the Ozzy one.
There's a soundboard for everything, and you can find your Ozzy Osbourne and Hulk Hogan sounds. Let us know what happened in your week while we were away. Alex and Will and I were taking a vacation, but actually working.
We just worked the entire week, more than normal, actually.
Yeah,
but
we
active rest,
and we got a lot done.
Yes,
we have awesome progress on the Circle community. We've got a meeting with our friend at Circle, Jorge, today to just do sort of a final test drive. And then we're going to start adding our friends and moderators. And then we'll open it up to the public. It's going to be great.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Mods should be in there, next couple days. And then everyone else shortly thereafter. I'm pretty satisfied with how it is. I think, there's tweak stuff here and there as we're in there for a little while, but overall, she's solid.
Premium members in office hours last Friday, a drive-through, what they can expect, what it looks like. It really looks a lot like Discord, but friendlier. If you're used to the Discord layout, you'll have no problem here. And even if you've never used Discord before, you found it intimidating, the last couple of resources we're going to populate are going to help make it even clearer. I want to do a drive-through tutorial step by step, and we should be in there like in August, coming soon.
Oh yeah.
Will says from the comments, tell everyone I'm not dead yet. He's feeling a little under the weather today.
That's a good sound to add on the board, Evan.
I'm not dead yet. Yeah, we could do that. We could do that. That would be a good one, honestly. I feel like maybe I could get a recording of Will saying it because something tells me.
You know what? I feel like in crypto, the bell ringing, bring out your dead probably has a lot of places that it would make a lot of sense to play.
I think both those sounds could work well, maybe even together. I'm not dead yet and bring out your dead. It's noted. Noted for the soundboard. If you've got a soundbite suggestion, if you've got a crypto question, if you've got something we missed last week, then please do let us know. This is your show. I want to say a special shout out to all of our friends on Instagram who might be getting to watch the broadcast the first time live. Let us know how it sounds over there. If you're seeing us for the first time, we do the Rise Up Morning Show every Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, to share helpful news, to share some commentary, answers to your crypto questions. We're also live Wednesdays for Rise Up After Dark, 12 hours later, 7 p.m. Central. And we've got the Rise Up Market Watch, which is Mondays at 7 p.m. Doug and Will unpack everything macro. They chart anything you can think of. And it's a great place to get a sense of how the broader economy is shaping crypto trends. So really, there's a show for everybody. Absolutely. One Traveler Life says, I'm excited to get to Circle as Discord will never let me comment. Well, Guam for Circle, or for Discord, and Ding for Circle. We'll be there soon. Stay tuned on that. It'll be an ongoing process. Alex, where do you want to start our show back this morning? I know you've got a tax app under the hood.
It's become so much more.
It's become so much more. Last week we were working. We're in the Circle community, and we're all plugging away at stuff. And I'm not a very great project manager, but I've been kind of the project lead on this, which means it's a lot of Alex and Will at this point asking me, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And a lot of me saying, hold on.
That was a real glimpse into this week right there.
Work. Yeah. And at one point, though, Alex was being productive.
It's a whole lot of Evan being very stressed because of how much stuff he has to do. And then me and Will just being like, take something off your plate and give it to one of us. And Evan going, I can't. Yeah,
mostly because I just don't, I haven't, crossed the T's and dotted the I's to get, I'm like, if I ask you to do this, it's not, you're going to have no idea what I'm talking about. I haven't set it up for you.
But then he did build this lengthy task list of all of the different items that needed to get done. And he put it in our resource management software thing. And I was trying to be productive in another area, and I was cleaning that whole thing up because it was kind of a mess, and I deleted his list. And I just see the light, the little bit of spirit that was left in this man from all of this Circle stuff just dwindled.
I will absolutely die on this hill.
I languished.
When Evan smiles and just kind of calmly says, "It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it."
That's how I show. That's how I show anger.
I will kill you.
Anger and despair. But as Will mentioned in the comments, then they just started doing stuff, and I got very excited, and it was great. Until Alex told me, Evan, I'm gonna need you to test something for me. The first of many times, but it's actually really very cool. Alex, you found a new AI tool, or a new to us AI tool. The remark you made to me was, we are at the bleeding edge of this stuff, and we're probably using 1% of it.
I think I use AI tools every single day to do stuff, and I have the feeling that I'm less than 2% of the way through what these things are capable of right now, and that's now, where they're still what I would call largely in their infancy. So I was aware of Replit, which is the tool I was using, and had never I had a tab open, I made an account, and I had it in my head okay, mess around with something, but I didn't know how to prompt it. And then they released their V2 or Replit agent or something, I don't know, whatever they called their last update. You know how these models work, there's no numerical logic or sense in the way that they number these things. We went from 1.0 to 4.0 back to 3.5 or whoever knows, whatever. And it's incredible. So this is the first time I've ever vibe coded something, and I really want to do a segment on the show, bring back artificial insanity, to do AI related stuff. But I really want to do a vibe code segment, and I think walking through the process of building this thing from scratch with this AI agent is going to be a pretty cool feature on that whole thing. I'm very excited about it.
Well, and it is really cool. I gave Alex a lot of guff, but actually what I want to see is the return of the segment now. So could you possibly whip it up and then walk us through your process? And in the meantime, I will tell you.
This is artificial insanity.
Artificial insanity first debuted on the show when Alex and I used GPT to roast each other to demonstrate how fine its language capabilities were. And that seems like forever ago. We had a really good question in the audience that I'd love to answer in a minute about how we use AI every day to just enhance our workflow or improve our analog experience offline. But listen, Alex, the floor is yours. This is very cool. If you've used the tax calculator before, like the ones at Crypto Snapshot or the ones at Coinly or crypto tax calculator, you'll be familiar with this kind of interface, and I'm excited to see how it's evolved since I got to touch it. When I got to touch it, I have to. We'll talk in a minute. There were bugs.
Oh yeah, I mean,
but it was like
there still are, to be.
But
clear,
it was like a 10-minute thing. Alex went from concept to a working website in what, 3 prompts? Not even.
No. I had it live after the first prompt.
It's wild.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Just there was a comment about where'd it go? Cursor. That's the one that I've probably heard the most about. I feel like most people, when they talk to me about vibe coding, say Cursor. And I've both watched someone much more skilled at this than I am, an actual engineer, use Cursor, and I've also taken a stab at it myself. I personally found this Replit agent to be better in its current iteration, but this is also brand new. Cursor has been, I think, a little bit ahead of the game. So I imagine that, as these things like leapfrog each other, I imagine that Cursor's answer to Replit agent will be quite good. Would be my guess. Okay, so bear with me on the branding because this is all the text. Yeah, all the text on this thing, all the colors and everything are all just generated. I haven't done any input on like names or specific text. So it's pretty like if you read the paragraphs on this thing, you'll be like, okay, I can tell that an AI wrote this most of the time. I haven't really tweaked anything yet, but okay. So it's kind of cool. So the basic process is literally like over here, I am just having a conversation with the agent. And then over here is the like live preview of the application as it stands. And the prompts are pretty nut. Like I'll just give an example of what's the last thing I said. Oh, so I added another page and it didn't add the top menu bar. So I literally just said, make sure the top nav bar menu is visible on the profit taking planner page. Boom, done. And then it goes through all this different stuff. It kind of does a readout of what it's been doing. And there you go. So, but I mean, the process has been literally just have a conversation. I would say that you definitely don't need to be an engineer or even especially with a tool like an LLM on the side. So like if you were trying to say like, hey, I'm trying to explain to the Replit agent how to do whatever, and you sent that to GPT will help you put the prompt together. And actually, I've noticed that this Replit agent is quite good. It's not like you have to give every single thing to it as an input prompt, as like a command prompt to do something for the tool or the app or whatever you're making with it. You can literally just ask it questions. Like we'll get to the end of a thing and I'll be like, what do you think we should add next? Or give me 15 features that you would make sense to add to this. Or actually, one thing that I've done several times is tell it to describe to me. I was like, if you were to sell this app to me, like pitch it to me, what would you say? And then it will return me this giant list of what it says that this thing is. And then I'm like, okay, now read your own prompt, apply it to what we currently have, and tell me all of the areas where it actually falls short according to your pitch. And then we go and we work on all of those things individually. So kind of make it, fact check itself, brother.
Yeah.
But okay,
fact check
so
yourself, brother.
It all started with this, and bear with, this is not live right now. This is a preview. So it started with this profit-taking tool segment. And so, Evan, something you'll notice, I've added the CoinGecko API, the free one.
Very
so we
cool.
have live prices up here in real time. And then this, I'm not really a big fan of the design of still, but I haven't gotten back to this part yet. So you can like upload a CSV of transactions to it.
Like the document I might get from like my Excel or Coinbase or something like that at tax time.
Yeah, So it comes with some sample templates that you can add from either Coinbase or Binance or just a generic one if you want to do your own. And then, or you can just add transactions manually. So like, you bought whatever, BTC. And so now this is much better. You just type the ticker and it gets in there. So Evan, the first time you saw it, there was only like 6 things on the on the list. So you bought one. Say you bought it for 50,000. Say you bought it. When was it 50,000? 2022?
A long time ago. Yeah.
So let's say 22. Let's say you bought it on Coinbase. Add. Okay, and so now down here on your transaction preview, it has this transaction that you added. You can also pick a blockchain and add a public address. Go the last however many transactions, and then pick like whatever token. So I've only done this for Solana so far. So like, for example, you could type in your Solana address, do the last 50 or 100 transactions and say just like Solana and USDC. If you just wanted to track your Sol and USDC swaps, for example, back and forth, and then import, and it would do this. This particular piece of the tool doesn't work yet because I need an endpoint to query, and I don't have one. But I have a list of like where I can get them. And actually, this would be a thing to use like Helios for example, to get a bunch of like Solana endpoints to query all sorts of different stuff. But so that would work, and then you could do it for any blockchain, which is pretty cool. So okay, let's just do one more. So we bought a Bitcoin there. Let's say that we're going to sell a quarter of it at 100,000. Yeah, whatever. We sold it the other day.
Yeah.
And we sold it on Coinbase. Sure, why not? Okay, so now we have a buy and a sell. So we have something. We have taken some sort of profit. Then you can come over here and you can add in some little amplifying information about your tax configuration. So U.S., married, filing jointly. Let's just say joint household income 130. Georgia. Okay. So you could also add anywhere in the UK, anywhere in Canada, or anywhere in Australia, and it will populate this with those particular regional tax regulations and rules and obligations and whatnot too. So that's pretty cool.
It's very cool.
And then down here, it'll give you your bracket. So federal tax rate between, like if your joint household income in the state of Georgia, for example, or in the US, is between 94.3 and 201.05, then you're paying 22%. And Georgia State 5.7, short-term capital gains 27.7 in this bracket, long-term 15. And then it kind of tells like what do we got here? Then you come down here and it has what are the calculations on the whatever you owe on your taxes, what the breakdown is. So there's one single transaction. You made 12.5K, federal tax owed, state tax owed, whatever, yada, yada. Here we go. You can either export that back as a CSV or print it straight from here. Go down a little bit further, and here would be your tax optimization. So if you did something that was, not ideal, if there was any way that you could have saved on this particular instance, then it would do this. This is not full and thorough and complete yet because I do want some stuff in here about and I'll get to that on the education page about, different ways that you can go about mitigating tax. Like I would say here, like if you're just doing Bitcoin, it would suggest also looking at the ETF products in your Roth IRA, for example, because, you could do that without owing any capital gains tax if you're trading inside of a protected retirement account like that. So then there would be recommendations. If there is something that you could do better, you could tab over to recommendations and there would be something there. If you, did a lot of short-term trading, it would suggest trying to focus on assets that you could hold for longer than a year because you save a ton on taxes there. Personalized insights. So these are kind of based on your specific inputs and stuff. It gives you, I'm still working on this because I really don't like the way that the weighting is currently on this. So it gives you like an overall health score based on a few different things. So diversification of the portfolio, which is low because there's only one asset in it right now. Risk level. So we're working on this too. This used to say like crazy risk is only one asset, but it was like rating Floki and Bitcoin as the same thing. And then tax efficiency. In this particular instance, we did everything we could. Okay, more stuff down here. So there's some different insights, couple different raw numbers about your overall performance, any recommendations there, disclaimer, all that good stuff. So that's the tax calculator as it stands. Then quickly, I just added a few more little things. So this is just like a broad spectrum education tab, and I've added in a whole bunch of different like just tip boxes. These are all just like different things to keep in mind, and they're tagged with like where or how I would categorize the series of tips. So like these are intermediate strategies versus more advanced strategies. We talk about like wash sales, tax loss harvesting, different points to remember here. And then, but see, like you can see right here, there's an error because it says wait 31 days before repurchasing the same crypto. So obviously that's not correct because wash trading is not a thing in crypto. So you can wait as little as 10 seconds. LLC. So here's like the stuff, trading inside of a trust, which would be, a little bit more of an expert thing just because it costs some money to get started, all that sort of stuff. A little harder to navigate. Basic LLC stuff. What else we got? Oh, just timing, and then like DeFi and tax tracking. So this, just because this is like a vibe coded app and I don't trust like the security of it necessarily, there's not a single instance anywhere on this where you're going to be like connecting a wallet or offering any like specific, personally identifiable information, all that sort of stuff. Like it would all be, there's no accounts, there's none of that kind of stuff. Just because I don't trust it. And Evan, we should talk about what happened with the T app briefly, just because that's a great example of all these things going wrong. But just because I'm sitting here vibe coding this thing and I'm not an engineer, there's no instance wherein I would be like super worried about security, because I'm sure it would take, a toddler 10 minutes to hack this thing.
Yeah, but if you wanted to make it secure, we had a really good question about this. Cosmic was asking, could smart contracts someday be vibe coded to the point that they could handle like finance, or could a website be vibe coded to the point that I think the answer is yes. And I especially think the answer is if somebody like Mike, shout out Mike, who's in the audience, is working with somebody like Alex, the job DevRel, the job developer is going to change a lot in the future. Somebody like Alex, who's got a vibe and a dream, can whip an MVP up like this that is informed by his expertise, his work with people who do their crypto taxes, you know what I mean? And then somebody like Mike would go in and be like, oh, well, here's a bug, here's a code, here's a thing, here's that. But the work would be so much more done for him instead of having to code it from zero. Like that would be a pain in the butt. This is going to increase not only the quantity of stuff that we can produce, but the quality of it by and large will be better, because our time will be used more efficiently when we're working with tools like this. And that is, the tool is Replit, Replit.
No, for sure. I mean, I'm blown away. Like I said, I would probably hand this to someone like my father and have him go through it, and we would look at stuff and then, see where it can be tightened up or made. I'm sure that and I don't know, this is a guess. Someone who's an engineer can correct me or give me some additional information, but I'm sure that the actual code that this thing is writing is kind of gobbledygookish. I would imagine that it's pretty specific to this. I imagine it'd be pretty hard. Although I know that you can connect, a GitHub to your Replit code base and you can take stuff over there. So I'm not sure if it is editable or workable outside of this tool. I've seen other, if you're building a website in Webflow, for example, and then you try to take the whole thing out and do it elsewhere, it's really hard, because they make it kind of hard to leave the platform. So I would imagine that there's something like that. But the last little bits are basically just some different additional resources. These are all direct links out to more specific things, so IRS guidelines and all that kind of stuff, just because obviously taxes are not something that you want to let an LLM just potentially hallucinate the rules to. So still have to do a lot of fact checking and all that sort of stuff. I'm basically just working on the structure right now. I threw in a jargon buster. So there's a big glossary here that right now has about 100 terms on it, separated into categories. So crypto specific, general finance, and then blockchain tech in general.
Dang. You really did turn this into a whole dashboard.
Yes.
Last week, this was just a distraction from whatever task I was working on. Trying to get work to a circle.
Last week, it was literally just the calculator page, and the drop-down menus didn't work. So
every time you had to type how much Bitcoin you bought, it left that zero there. So you had to go back to the zero space and delete. I was like, Alex, I swear to God, if you ask me to type this one more time.
Yeah. No, Evan, one of the first things I had that I took off now, but one of the first things I had to do was build a button in the menu that auto-populated the transaction history with like 15 test transactions so that I could stop like doing the typing because it took every time I refreshed a new prompt, I had to redo the test transactions. And then the last thing, which was a request from one of our premium members, was a profit-taking planner, which is not super good yet, but right now I have 2 modes. So you could like, let's just use me as an example here. So, God damn it, Solana's up to 192. Really didn't go down as low as I wanted it to the other day. I don't know, let's just say, okay, we've got 20 Sol. Let's say the average, what is my average? Probably about, it's probably up a little bit now. It's probably about,
just pick a nice, easy round number.
$90. Okay. So then you come down here and you could pick, okay, basic ladder out strategy. And then here's a couple different like thresholds. So there's a conservative, aggressive, balanced, and then it threw in Fibonacci. I'm like, you know what? Go off. All right. Knock yourself out. So let's just pick balanced, generate the profit plan. And here you go. So current P&L, current position value, export the plan. So here's level 1. You would sell 6.6 of your bag at $117. So we're talking about like here from 90. And then you could sell 10 more at 157. And it's, I'm sorry, not 10 more. Whatever the difference between 6.6 and 10 is, that's a good thing. I didn't notice that it was doing it that way. And then the final thing would be all the way out at 225, which would be 150% gain from where you were at. And you could change these to wherever, like if you did.
Are those sliders draggable? Like, can I manually do it?
No, but that is on my short list.
That would be a good short list. The other thing I would say would be on a great short list is if you had a promptable interface for us so that the user could see, like, do you want me to give you a profit-taking strategy with steps for your specific exchange? Where do you hold your crypto? Or where do you access your crypto? And I could be like Coinbase, and it could be like, great. If you want to automate this, you can use a limit order with Coinbase Advanced or something.
So what I would want. I'm adding a chat window here with GPT 4.0, so you can chat back and forth with GPT about the whole thing too.
Is this the free plan, or is this like expensive? What does it cost to use this tool?
To get from 0 to where I am right now cost me $25.
Wow. And is that like the ongoing monthly rate, or is it charged based on a usage amount?
Both. So there's like a basic plan, which is $25 worth of credits every month, and then you can buy more credits if you go over. And
Alex went over.
I went over. Yeah. But what's really cool is like deploying it uses up credits, but it's not like an ongoing thing that I pay for. Like it comes out of, my plan here, which is pretty sweet. And there's no custom URL. Like right now, it's just a very like replit.dev/crypto pro tax whatever .app or something like that. But you can like upgrade your plan to have, database storage so that users would be able to like come back and see their old data. Like you could store some of it. But as soon as you get into stuff like that, that's where I'm like, okay, this is like more of a thing. Like someone is putting in information and it's being stored somewhere. So you have to take security and all that sort of stuff into and I don't trust myself vibing with this agent here to put all that together in a way that I would like feel confident about. But I might text Skull Elf and be like, hey, hook me up, break this thing, and tell me, tell me how. I would be really curious, actually, like how vulnerable is this from a like cybersecurity expert standpoint? Like if someone who knew what they were doing, I would love to see them like get their hands on something like this. Which kind of reminds me of Evan. I don't know if you saw the news about the T app data breach.
No, can you tell me about it? I don't even know what the T app is. Is it like an oolong versus green versus reishi?
No.
Is it like
no? What? T as in gossip.
Okay.
So essentially, the idea for the app is it was a place where women could share information with each other about men that should be avoided. And it was used a lot, like for women who had an interaction or like a date with a guy that turned out to be a stalker or something like that, and was still like on dating apps or whatever. That was the concept. The problem is that, and I saw this written. I have no idea if this is true. I'm inclined to think that this is exaggerated. Yeah. But thank you. Yeah, I mean, sorry. I kind of rolled right out of it. Anyway, if you have suggestions or whatever, like, let me know.
I'm coming back to it. I have some follow-up questions.
Okay.
I know you're eager to talk about this, though, and it's relevant.
So the verification for a user on this app was basically that you had to provide, there was a KYC process to prove that you were a woman, because they wanted to try to avoid, men coming on and following up or, harassing people or, continuing whatever they were being warned against in general, yada, yada. Anyway, as you can imagine, this was a controversial app, and they had a pretty significant data leak. And one of the pieces of KYC that was required was an uploaded photo of your driver's license.
Oh no.
Every single one got leaked and posted. So the home address, full name, driver's license number, like all this kind of stuff. I mean, everything. And then geolocated to their address and published on a map. So now they were all viewable. Oh my God. Every single one. And it's a lot of people. And my first thought was, yet again, here we are at a stage where we are building like tools with significant heft with very little thought towards cybersecurity. And that's incredible to me. Because I would say the same thing about crypto. How many times have we seen a crypto protocol like hacked, exploited, money stolen, moved, whatever? And then you realize like, yeah, 3 like dudes in their dorm room threw this together with a Twitter account, and none of them know anything about cybersecurity. They used a few open source tools to throw the thing together, whatever. They vibe coded this whole thing kind of thing, and go figure, somebody stole from it or whatever. And of course, then I'm thinking like, here, we've been talking a lot about like zero knowledge and ways that you can use things like cryptography to do a lot more than just build a cool ass slot machine with a lot more options and anonymity. And you can do all sorts of things like protect personal information, like your driver's license. Like, there is no reason that an app like this that is designed specifically, especially because the implication is the goal here is to like give like women some sort of sheltered place from potentially their abusers. Yeah. There's a high incentive to steal that information and publish it. And so I'm sure there's an audience, there's a market for that data. Like a collection of women's names, pictures, and home addresses. Like, yeah, if I was a scumbag, I'd want that list. So
honestly, I'm just curious. I'm not. I hope I'm not scummy.
Well, and that too, There's a high incentive to get all that information. So of course, one should have been able to say like, this is going to be a target. But there's no reason to just like take all of those driver's license photos and store them in some fucking database. That apparently was not hard to get into. And published.
I'd like to ask Evan McMullen about that. She, bless her, has been really diligent about rescheduling. She's had a hectic schedule this summer, and is supposed to return to the show August 6th after dark.
Yeah. DeWoofy in the audience over here, another good person to talk to about this specific thing. I thought about you too, dude, when I was listening to this or, reading about this too. He says public database, weeping face. And I mean, think about the other times though that we've seen this. So like, yes, this app is an easy target, but you know who else famously was recently caught using a public database for very important, very sensitive data and information?
Probably the government.
The Doge group.
Oh no.
Like treasury information and treasury data just going into their own public database with almost no protection. Yeah. Like with Spaceballs level of password security, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 type shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and that's Elon. So, yikes.
Yikes.
But hey, in the name of efficiency, fire the cybersecurity expert, right? We don't need that. We have ChatGPT, or in his case, Grok.
Okay, Alex, that actually brings me to a good question. This looks intimidating to somebody who's never done it before.
Yeah.
And Paul, Ripley Dad, on YouTube said, I am intimidated to start this kind of process. You mentioned Replit. Robert, Mr. Robot Steckler-ish, in the comments said, I also recommend using Claude. I have started exploring Copilot this last weekend. There's so many different tools that people can use. What's like a bare bones, I'm intimidated, want the training wheels version to get started, and can we expect a guide on this coming soon?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. And also, this whole tool that I'm making is just going to be like a gift for the premium users. There will be a free plan. I want like the education part and the glossary and all that sort of stuff to be like freely accessible. But I think it would be a really cool like benefit to premium subscribers that you have like free membership to this thing, whatever it ends up being. It has a lot of work to go before like someone could sign up and make an account. Like I said, I feel pretty strongly about, especially at this point, not making it something that you're connecting wallets to. I don't want, I think you can take your public address and enter it in manually, and it'll scrape a bunch of transactions, kind of help you sort through them and stuff.
Yep.
I don't want to mess with people connecting wallets, or I don't want to mess with permissions or any of that sort of stuff. But we'll sort of see how it goes. Maybe I can harass my father into taking a peek at this thing. Because I just kind of keep going. It's so much fun. It's so cool. And to your point, I was very intimidated to get started, which is why it took me so long.
Yeah.
And then I got in there and I was like, what's the worst that could happen? Like, it's not going to work. And between using ChatGPT, because the plan for this app was born out of a long ago ChatGPT discussion about apps I could build or tools or products or whatever that we could make as a company to offer to users and to, give some more value and stuff like that. So this kind of tax planner, thing was born a long time ago. But just go back and forth between those two things. Just start. And the agent especially is a lot the old coding assistant was a lot more specific. You had to really be very specific about what you wanted to add. Whereas this time I can literally just be the menu's broken, and it's got it, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But before it's what do you mean?
And we are definitely going to, so Alex did this with Replit, but you could also do vibe coding with Lovable.
Mm-hmm.
Bubble is one that's been working for a while. Claude is one. The thing
Cursor,
is, all these agents
Gemini.
are kind of having their leaps and bounds moments. At one point in time, people were like, "No, Grok is the best for coding," and then people are like, "No, this new Claude update, it blows Grok out of the water." So you really can't go wrong to just start somewhere and try it, especially if you're trying to learn. But I will say, there are new tools being built all the time. I just saw one called Caffeine that's been around for a while, but they recently did a big update launch the weekend before we took the show off the air. And it was a prompt to website interface. And it was really, it was super simple. The way the guy was walking through it, caffeine, like the ingredient in coffee. And something that I think would be really fun and helpful is to do more of this live. Alex and I have talked about this, bringing back artificial insanity. Our friend Michael, shout out to the Faceless Labs OGs, has been working to make his Claude autonomous. I forget what it's called, but I showed it on the show a couple weeks ago. And now GPT has agent mode, which will allow you to assign it tasks to complete autonomously, more than just one prompt at a time. And so we want you to feel like you are equipped to do this. And I've already given Alex a list of here are the other things we need, starting with a POAP distribution bot, because our friend Willem, the machine, he built one back at Faceless Labs that we used in Discord. But
awesome.
We want one that we can put into Circle or just put into a website. And I also told Alex, I said, what would be a really fun one is, can you make an 8-ball landing page so that people can have the Rise Up Morning Show 8-ball just to query on a website? In fact, Alex, what are the odds that you could just open a new thread? I feel like that would be maybe the very simplest thing to do. And just say, I want a website that's like a magic 8-ball that has some crypto themed sayings that people can click and see, whimsical static website. Oh my God, he's gonna do it. Okay, hang on, let me get the screen share ready.
It's a good example to show you literally how easy this is, and everybody should take it. If you have an idea, like you can get a bare bones MVP very quickly with this. I mean, so far as to say, here, let's see if this opens. Another one that I did. This is literally only like 2 prompts deep, a total of 10 minutes or so.
Two prompts deep. That sounds like a weird like drinking and vibe coding social function. 2 prompts deep. Oh, this is cute. Look at this.
Yeah. So
it does look like what you were telling me about.
Yeah. So for those of you who remember the early days of AOL instant messaging, if you ever spoke to Smarter Child, blast from the past, this will feel familiar. So this is literally just a chat interface that has GPT 4.0 running behind it, and you can ask it questions about crypto. It's like specifically meant to be like a crypto research assistant. It is my research guide, my research prompt guide to like build your own GPT research assistant, but just like put into a little front end that did the prompting and all that kind of stuff for you. So you could literally just be like, you know, tell me about Bitcoin, the white paper or something. And it would give you, you know, boom, done.
Cute.
Now, this one, again, I'm not paying for the OpenAI API access. So right now the API is not plugged in, but like this literally took me 2 prompts. I was like, hey, I want it to look super retro, like old school AOL instant messaging. And I wanted to have like this prompt set preloaded to assume that I want my answers built in this manner. Boom, here you go. That took 2 prompts. So if you were to start and say this magic 8-ball thing.
Yeah, probably. You describe it however you think it would work.
Let's see. I want a say I want an app that functions literally. So the big difference between this and the other one is that before you would need to really write in what I would call, or what's called pseudocode, which is like very specific. Like an English version of code that has like step-by-step instructions for something. But now it's just like, I'm literally just going to see what happens after we say, I want an app that functions like a magic 8-ball
but for crypto,
answers questions about crypto with a combo of witty, sarcastic, optimistic, and cynical one-liners.
super simple. Okay.
And okay, so it's going to take a minute. So we'll come back to it. I'll just watch it and I'll show you guys how, but you can see here, like it's, you know, acknowledges the receipt of the prompt. It said, you know, okay, understand that you want to do this. Let's create the thing. So the very first prompt basically like whips up kind of like a preview of what it thinks you're asking for. And then you get to go back and forth and kind of like chat with it or say like, no, okay, I really didn't want it like that. This is more what I meant. This is what I had in mind. So you kind of go back and forth a little bit before it actually like generates something significant to make sure that it's like starting off in the right direction. So it asks you like follow-up questions and stuff. So
some of the things it's saying are like a visual magic 8-ball animation or design element, a question input field with a submit functionality.
Yeah.
And on the right-hand side for people in podcast land, it has already generated a static web page with what looks like a little 8-ball that says, ask a question about crypto. Ask the mystical sphere about your crypto future. Prepare for brutally honest answers. And the example question in the field is, will Bitcoin reach 100K this year? And the submit button says, consult the Oracle.
So this would be where I could say either I approve this plan, let's continue on, or I could say edit, and you know, I don't know, you could say something like you know, no, I really want the button, you know, to look more like this. I don't want to type in a question. I want like suggestions for questions. Or I want the 8-ball to be animated. You know, whatever. You can. There we go. Yeah, actually, it heard me say that, and it went ahead and animated the 8-ball. So
yeah, now it's floating.
Now it's floating. So I would honestly, in this instance, I think it kind of nailed it. So I would just say like, okay, here we go. And thar she blows. So let's try. I mean, will it reach?
Yeah,
Actually,
I think that's a
okay.
great prompt question. Will Bitcoin reach 100K this year? Considering it already has, that's okay.
And the first one, like we'll come back to it because the first ones can take like 10-ish. I've had them take like 10-ish minutes or so to finish. It really depends. I have no idea how long this will take, but you can. This is kind of a neat little feature. Evan, if you scroll over to the agent side, you can just like scan the code for the app, and the app will just like ping you when it's done.
Wow,
if you have, like,
that's
the
cool.
mobile app, which is kind of neat.
And just curious, what's the URL, Alex, for Replit? Is it replit.io.com?
.com. Yeah, .com.
Got it.
Here would be something that I would probably say, like, I don't want these things displayed, or actually they're kind of funny. Maybe that's actually kind of a neat idea. Evan has like other examples of questions that previous people have asked and like what was the answer that the 8-ball gave them. Should I buy more? Sure, buying the dip for the 47th time will definitely work. Will this altcoin moon? The house always wins. You're not the house.
I like this 8-ball.
So, I mean, that's it. But that how easy was that? I think
it's so easy.
I think everybody gotcha. Everybody should be messing with something like this. Like it's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah, I was like, we should have a Rise Up. The 8-ball should be part of our website or, Circle or whatever. We should definitely have the soundboard so that people can go and play and add, we can all create a soundboard together. And there's just so much.
Let me, I'll show you guys one more thing, because this is the kind of the thing that sort of birthed this idea in me, at least to finally like, okay, I'm actually going to do this, was a phone call I had with Charlie Blackstock 2 weeks ago, just about the idea of vibe coding in general and how I really wanted to bring back artificial insanity for the show and whatever. And if you guys are not familiar, Charlie is the
co-founder
of Remix right here, which is another really spot. If you want to like get into vibe coding for the first time, this is another very cool way to start, but specifically for games. And it's
remix.gg.
.gg. You can literally just go there, no accounts, no nothing, just scroll down and like pick a game. These are all games that you can just play for free, and all of these games were vibe coded by users. So this is kind of like, TikTok for games, where, content creators, instead of filming a video, would vibe code a little game and then deploy it. And if it gets a lot of plays, it gets a lot of plays. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But all of these are, and some of them are awesome. Some of them are nonsense. But I mean, it's pretty sweet. This is another great target. Like this kind of thing is just taken off. It's worth learning. Anyone can be some kind of an engineer, at least to the point where you could like get a concept for your idea down, or like kind of mess around in the sandbox sort of thing and play with some ideas and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I really want to set the expectation for people that a lot of the stuff you interact with is going to be limited, is going to be rudimentary, is going to be bad, in the sense of if you went to Remix and opened 100 games, I bet you might say about, 50 of them, this game sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Not because, it's buggy or whatever, but just because like it's an MVP. People are trying this stuff. They're trying this stuff for the first time. But the same way that like having access to knowing how to read and the printing press made it so that all of a sudden the novel was a great medium of human expression. It took a while though for literacy to spread, for the form to reach maturity. And now it's a great mode of human expression, and everybody can write passably well. So the only way to get there to that place is to experiment with this stuff. And because access to it is so democratized, the quality is going to improve. More people are swinging the bat, and you should be one of them.
Yeah. Joe just asked or threw out an idea about like a recipe planner based on fridge contents, something that you can do with ChatGPT, which you could totally vibe code like a specific front end meant for recipe planning, and have it kind of preloaded with all that sort of stuff, and pull from put in your dietary restrictions or whatever, and then like add the things and say what kind of cuisine you like, and boom, done. There you go. That could totally be a thing that you did. Christina suggested she wanted to mess around and try to make one the other day that because every time she does a new crochet pattern, there's always like a yarn estimate, and she's like, they're never good. They always undershoot, and she would love one that would like actually more accurately tell you how much yarn you're going to need to complete a project. Because constantly she either like overbuys because she knows that the pattern is going to like undershoot, or just like trust the pattern and then it's never enough. All that sort of stuff. I suggested I make one with Jordan that like takes his favorite video game, and you can put it in and it would like describe to you and tell you what the meta is, and then you could like describe your loadout, your character's loadout to the game, and it would tell you like where you could optimize, and you tell it like what kind of loadout you're trying to make, and it would help you like walk back and forth and like literally anything. Just like think about a thing that you do, and then something that like a process of some sort, something that you feel strongly about, something that you could like talk about and you can describe excitedly that you have a lot of ideas about or whatever. Just like sit down and mess around with it for $25 to like make that whole thing. That's so cool. And this isn't sponsored by Replit, but at this point it should be, because I just did a whole freaking feature about it. But
yeah,
this
there
stuff is never sponsored by anybody, but it should be.
Unless it is, then
Unless
it is. Icy said they're not watching live, or maybe ISY. Sorry if I butchered your name, but we should check out Alchemist AI, which has got a crypto token, which makes me a little skeptical about it. But there are some AI agents that do have workable programs, like AIXBT is another one I've had a lot of people use.
See, though, this spitballing, this is a neat idea for a token that could actually have utility. And I do not know if this is how alchemy works or whatever, but I'm just throwing this out there. If you had a project like Replit that wanted to do a token, and the token functioned the same way that its credits did, where you purchase the token and it acts as credits, except you can then also go in and interact with other people's apps and like leave feedback or tip other app builders in the token. And it's kind of this like on platform points currency that you can like accumulate. The more you build, the more tokens you get back. So like I buy $25 worth of credits, it gives me this much, but like if I use them all up and then I create something and whatever, like I could earn back. You could totally design a structure wherein a token would make a ton of sense for that.
Yeah.
And that would be cool as hell.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, vibe coding. It's the vibe. If you've got a question about this, about crypto, we have not talked as much about blockchain, about crypto this episode, but certainly the intersection of AI and crypto is an important place to be. If you've got a crypto question, we've been off all week, and we've been really looking forward to getting back with you guys. Great start to the week, Linda says. Have a good week, Linda. Thank you so much. Behind the scenes, making our show possible. And shout out again to our friends on Instagram who are joining us for the first time. If you're listening in podcast
and
land,
Twitch.
this is
had a
and
Twitch.
Too. Yeah, I saw that. I love that. If you're listening somewhere and you don't see the screen share like podcast land, this is a screen share heavy episode, and it's well worth it. We're also going to have links to this in the description if you want to try Replit for yourself. If you want to check out some of the other tools that we've mentioned, they'll be down below. But the other place you should go to get all the up-to-date links for us is theriseupmorningshow.com. It's got everything. It's got all our official social profiles. It's got all the places you can listen to past episodes of the show, because they get recorded and you can share them with your friends. And you can get in touch with our community there. Right now, we live on the community platform Discord, but soon we will be moving to Circle. We hope it'll be our new forever home. So find the link to the Discord, or honestly, if you're like, don't want to learn a new platform and then learn another new platform next week, maybe the move would be tune into the show and then jump into Circle community. We're going to announce it. We'll have lots of videos to help you get there, to make it clear and simple for you. I'm anticipating it'll happen at the start of next week. That's the goal. We're going to do a week of testing with the mods, get everybody in there, and then all that we'll be missing, my friends, is you.
Evan, did you see the back and forth between Tolly and Jesse yesterday?
Yeah, I saw a comment, but I didn't see the back and forth. Fill me in.
It's an interesting conversation, one that I think has been coming up a lot lately. So I think the claim that started it all was from Jesse responding to a critique or a criticism of Zora to specifically say that it's just pump.fun now. And then he was kind of explaining why he thought the two were different, what he thought the difference between, the reason. And I don't think there was anything wrong with his reasoning. He basically said, like, not all tokens are created equal. Fundamentals of tokens plays a huge role in whether or not they are nonsense. It kind of went back and forth, whatever. Totally picked it up. Totally, for those who are unfamiliar, is Anatoly Yakovenko, who's
he's a co-founder of Solana.
Yeah, built Solana.
And Jesse is
one of the
Jesse
people.
Pollock, who's employee number 1 at Base, the Base app, and at Coinbase before that, and now is sort of leading the charge for branding of Base.
Yeah,
Coinbase is L2.
So they went back and forth. To be honest, I found things that I agreed and disagreed with on both sides. Totally had a hot, wild take, which he's made before the other day, where he's basically was just saying like meme coins and NFTs are bullshit. And he pissed off a lot of people in the Sol community who rightfully have said that like a lot of Solana's history has been propped up at different times by people specifically building and using in those areas. I mean, early NFT projects in 21 and 22 built a lot of foundations that turned into a lot of other cool things and whatever. And, at the end of the day too, I do think that the way at least I've seen Zora used, now at this point is kind of, it's a different sort of pump.fun in my opinion, where it's like very easy. The thing I would take from it, very easy to create a token of some sort.
Yeah.
Very easy to create something that has no intrinsic value or reason. The back and forth I thought was a little bit extreme. That's not the right word that I want. Basically, Totally was saying like content is not valuable. Jesse said all content is valuable, when we know that the answer lies somewhere in the middle. Like, of course, some stuff is nonsense and some stuff is very cool. But I think a lot of it is just about like the nature of subjectivity. Who's to say that content is cool? Evan could post a video that we all love, but people who are not in this space don't understand it all and think it's stupid. And he's a weirdo with a bandana and an odd vibe, and who knows what the hell that weird hippie is doing. Why is this pumpkin spice pirate talking to me about a Ponzi scheme? Like someone could be like on the complete other side and find it to be this revolutionary message about all the things that we love about it. And that's subjective. Who's to say either one of those people is wrong? And it's more of like it's a vote kind of thing. Like, is a token valuable? Is Bitcoin valuable? Like, sure, if you think it is, and a lot of people think it is, which kind of makes it valuable, right? So I don't know. It was just an interesting back and forth. If you were to go onto Twitter right now and search up either Jesse or Totally, it would be a very recent thing. Both of them quote tweeted different pieces of it with different pieces of input, but it's an interesting conversation. Kind of begets the question: what are we doing? Is any of this stuff valuable? Who thinks that it is? And my biggest piece of input there, which was kind of the thing that honestly built this show, is that right now, I think the question of what is or is not valuable is even more subjective, because all of those conversations are being had by the same tiny group of people in the same tiny bubble. And we are given a false sense of security with the potential value for a lot of these things because we refuse to ask anyone dangerous. And by dangerous, I just mean go pick a random person on the street who isn't involved with any of this and explain Zora to them. Go find a person who is not on social media and explain Zora to them. And I would be surprised if they were super excited about it. Like, do you think that would be the thing that got them into the idea of social media or not? But who knows? Because we refuse to have those conversations because they're scary.
As a case in point, I saw a video the other day from somebody who looked like what I would call a base native. There are people who are like all in on crypto and kind of mostly talk to crypto people. And they rarely, in my experience, cross worlds. It's unusual that you get the average consumer and the on-chain native into the same conversation. This person was an on-chain native speaking to what I would call the average consumer. And they were talking about Zora, and they said, in sort of a faltering, not quite convinced of this myself yet way, it's cool because you can collect your friends' posts. You can pay a little bit and then you own it forever. And you could tell they were just like working through this idea, and they're like, it looked like they were borrowing conviction from somebody else, which is fine, but not very helpful. When I hear Jesse talk about it, I see somebody who has a lot of conviction that is personal and that comes from a place of, he has a vision and some experience with this. When I speak, like, I don't think the average person is compelled by this idea of spending money on social media. I don't think the average person, even if they could support creators they loved, would be compelled to spend money if that was like the primary means by which they engaged. I also don't think that the average creator is that compelled by the pitch of, hey, go out and encourage people to collect your content. Does it cost them money? Yeah, but it's not that much. Like, even still, like, no creator that I know wants to be pimping their stuff. Every musician who's posting on social media in order to get streams for their album is like, oh my God, I wish I didn't have to do this. This is the only way I'm ever going to get a record deal, though, is if I get a bunch of followers and if they stream my music a bunch or they buy my albums. So if you want to support me, go buy my album, go buy this, go buy that, go pay for this. You know what I mean? Like, people are not, that's not the compelling argument. I think it's going to take some more experimentation and some more consumer feedback, like not just on-chain feedback. I'm not sure what it's going to take, what it's going to look like, but that's why we're talking about it here, because it is a conversation that's coming to consumers, everyday people on the internet like us, and knowing who the characters are in the story, knowing the solutions that they're building, like Zora or like, Pump.fun or something else, that's going to set you up for success in the future. Even if all you want to do in the crypto space is like spend some money to make more money, you're here as an investor. I often hear people say that, oh, we're all here to make money, but really, truly, even if that's all you're here for, you would do well to know what has happened in the past, who the people playing the chess game are, because that's going to help you when a nice new shiny token comes out that does something that you've never heard of before. You may be able to recognize it as novel or not. The most notable example recently, there's a token called ZBEC out that everybody on TikTok talks about, which is doing some cool stuff. Like, they're making cross-chain payment streaming a reality. They're in the right mouths. They're forming the right partnerships. But most people have ZBEC in their mouths, have never heard of Sablier. And if you haven't heard of Sablier, you got to look them up. Sablier is the first payment streaming solution I know of that crypto people used at scale. It was an Ethereum first project that now is live on all EVM compatible chains. And they have some of the best smart contracts in the business, by which I mean, like, the pieces of computer code, like we were talking about Alex's app a second ago, and he was saying, oh, you'd want to have a developer like check this code because I bet it's a little gobbledygook. Sablier is like, the code is tested. The code is secure. Everybody forks it. I would not be surprised if ZBEC forked Sablier's code. But if you're just looking at ZBEC and just hearing about streaming solutions for the first time with that, you may make a different decision with your dollars than if you understood Sablier well. Hot right now is great. It's important, but understanding history and context, especially if you're, as Alex likes to remind us, in a venture style space where most of these companies don't have a product except a token, is so important if you want to know, can this company succeed? Have others tried? Have others failed? All that kind of stuff. There are literally groups in Telegram who are connected to base teams, e.g. Jesse. Why people choose... And the comment cuts off. But I'm sure it was going to be a banger.
We'll wait anxiously for the conclusion.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, man. So good to see all our friends. Tori's here. Keith is here. Robot Steckler-ish. Many others. It's very good to be back with you live. If you've got a question, we've got about 20 minutes left of the show. Don't hesitate to drop it in the comments. Alex, I see you were having some discussions in the chat there. What's going on in Chatland?
Just answering a couple questions, going back and forth. There's someone with the username Crypto Recovery Team, and we were just like having a conversation. It was just informing that that particular name, even if you have like an innocent meaning behind it or a specific reason or something like that, it's just like very commonly used. to attempt to scam people. So if I was just out and about in a comment section and I saw that username, I would just block it. So potentially worth considering a rebrand if you mean something else by it. Anyway, markets wise, obviously we don't have Will with us today. I have to follow up to see about Market Watch tonight. I know Will's a little under the weather, but he might be able to drag himself out for it. Otherwise, I'm sure Doug will do something. But was it, Evan? Like we just kind of ripped last week. Did you do anything as a result, or any instances of profits or purchases or anything? I'm not going to do us all the disservice of me trying to fumble my way through a macro update, but I do have some like portfolio updates and stuff that I did based on what the prices of a couple different things did.
No, the last thing I've done on chain is I bought some votes in a contest called Joke Race that I'm participating in right now. That's like a crypto MVP. It's been around for years, and it's basically a group chat betting game with a lot of people from the crypto industry. And that's the reason I decided to do it, because it was insiders, who's who, not because I, thought I was going to win any kind of money or make a life-changing investment, except in social capital. And honestly, it's not going that great. Everybody's busy. There's not a lot of time for it. It's very cool, but I don't think I'm making the most of it. I mostly have been living vicariously through other people's trading. What a great time to be in the market right now, and buying Bitcoin. I buy Bitcoin every day, and that's it. What about you? What are you doing? I know you've been swing trading your way to becoming a Solana millionaire, but
80 little bits by 80 little bits.
Yeah. So what's the latest from Alex's bag? Tales from Alex's bags.
I hate that, for the record. I sold some Sol. We crossed $200 and took some profits. That was like a 140 entrance. And then of course, just as a proof of how this doesn't always work out the way that I want it to, I had intended to sell at 200. So I sold some at 190, 195, and then 205. Okay. And my plan was that hopefully, I was like, okay, we've been going up for a hot minute. It's been a really strong couple weeks here. We got to chill at some point. And especially in this market, I was like, okay, someone in the higher up has got to be like, that's enough. Let's crash everything. Let's liquidate some stuff. Let's crater it all. Let's get me some better entries and do the thing. Let's manipulate this shit down. So I had like a bunch of buy orders and I had like a number in my head, and we didn't quite get down to that point, and I totally missed a swing that I, should have re-entered a little bit. If I had been to a perfect T following my rules, I would have seen Solana chill, not by a full 10%, which is why I didn't, but went down from like 205 to like 78, and I had 170 in my head. And so a little bit more than 10%, and I just didn't do anything. But now it's back up, to 192. Would have been another easy swing to go from that like 178 up to 192. And for context, whenever I'm like being a little bit more active in a trade like that, and this is from someone who I don't do any technical analysis. I don't know how. I'm not what I would call like a talented trader by any stretch. This is the way that I've gotten it to work, where I just like, as my little, profit taking swing trade tool has, price goes up by X%, I sell a certain amount of the position. If it goes down by X%, I take a certain percentage of my stablecoin position and I rebuy. And I just do that over and over and over again. And over time, both of those, the stablecoin position and the asset position, just get bigger. And that's the goal. Been doing it for a while. And I just, I didn't follow my plan to the T, but that's all right. I'll catch the next one. It's kind of designed in a way that if you do screw it up, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to either not sell, in which case I just still have exposure to an asset that I believe in, or I'm not going to buy it. And then if it comes around again, I still have a bunch of stable coins, because who knows? Something terrible could happen and it could crater tomorrow. You know what I mean?
And that's the best way to think about it. Day by day, but also with a long view. To have a strategy, but be nimble and susceptible to what's happening. In terms of like my week in the market, I mostly took advantage of it by working, trying to rest. And then I did do a lot of good listening. I think I was telling Alex, one of the content formats I'd really like to experiment with more in the future is reaction content. Shout out to our friend Joe, who's here right now, who listens all the time, but has just made it clear a lot of folks really appreciate when we drive through something at like a slower pace where we show the different parts of it. Not just a tutorial, but kind of like a tutorial where you pause and give some context, kind of like we usually do with like DeFi Llama, or when there's a new research tool that we unpack bit by bit for the audience. And I heard a really fantastic episode of, I always talk about it, Unchained, great podcast, The Chopping Block, last week, where they had Rebecca, whose last name escapes me, who I believe is the chief legal officer at Jito. And they unpacked, among other things, the Clarity Act. She's read the whole bill, multiple iterations of it. And I was saying to Alex, I was like, oh man, this would be such a great episode for us to do like a listen and pause and talk about with. They had so many good definitions in the Clarity Act about, like, one of her points was the Clarity Act does a really good job of distinguishing blockchain, which is like a method of organizing transactions on a shared ledger, from blockchain protocols, which is a blockchain ledger that uses the same computer code across a variety of machines. And then blockchain tokens, you know what I mean? Like, it was a great 101 episode that made it clear to me that, like, okay, Congress has done their homework. Educators have a big gap to bridge to help everyday people understand when we say blockchain, which part of it are we talking about? And I was like, oh yeah, it was great. So my biggest investment was in listening to stuff like that. I also caught the new episode of Seeking Alpha. Shout out to Lindsay and Larissa. We got to have them back on the show too. If you're not listening to the Seeking Alpha podcast, that's another great one that unpacks some of the concepts you need to know, from here's what's happening now, but here's the context that informs it. They had a really good episode on OTC buying. I learned I was not outraged enough about the institutions who have a record of buying Bitcoin OTC, over the counter, which means some private seller is agreeing to give the tokens to them, usually for a discount from where they are at this moment, in order to not affect the market with those trades. When Coinbase or somebody else facilitates a trade, that settles on chain somewhere, or at least it's reflected in the on-chain price. And so it can cause the price to fluctuate. If you see, for example, that some big buyer put in a huge order or sold a huge amount of Bitcoin, something like that. And they were talking about just the record that companies like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan have of decrying Bitcoin publicly and then buying it privately for years. I knew about this, but I just didn't know like the numbers and the extent. And so my biggest investment was that this week. It was all about education, work, and rest. We have a question here, Alex. Divine Letty says, someone break down XRP because none of it makes sense to me. What specifically doesn't make sense to you, Letty? I'd like to know. And then Pratik says, you guys are connected with Base Insiders, aren't you? Alex, we are connected with Base Insiders, but I think I responded to Pratik. We have a love-hate relationship with Base, don't we?
It really depends what you mean. I mean, I'm reading that. Day of the week. I'm reading that particular comment as a part of, the inside trading alpha groups or whatever. And no, not those groups. Not at all. Every chain has them. They're all over the place. There's nothing unique or fancy about them. Yeah. But no, I mean, like I said, I don't necessarily know that Base is our biggest fan. We've made several attempts to talk to Jesse on the show, for example, and he always seems very excited, and then he always punts it to the same person on their team, and then she always immediately tells us to get fucked. So
he's just too busy. But we do have so many.
The guy who does social media for a living is just too busy to do social media. So,
which is fine. Yeah. It happens.
It's totally fine. It's just bullshit. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we do have some good friends there, though. Our friend Jarin gave us early access to the Base app, and we installed it. And then she sent us a follow-up when I said, I'm not sure I know how to use this well. I don't understand where all like the fun features are that everybody keeps talking about. So she was very attentive and helpful and sent us a little app. We got Mike over there. myk.eth, who's always in the comments on the show, always doing something. And I think that's been really good for him. And I'm sure for them. Talk about somebody who's like dedicated to the craft. That guy is always showing up and working on cool stuff. And it seems like a lot of people over there are really locked into building consumer experiences on chain. And frankly, I think we need more of it. I would love to have somebody from Base on to talk about it.
Yeah, it would be cool. Not going to happen.
Might happen. Might happen.
I'm not holding my breath. Would have passed out a long time ago.
Okay,
I'm not bitter.
So we got some follow up. On the XRP question. Robert Stecklerish says maybe they're asking about why XRP will go to 10K, and then Crypto Boat adds, "What does make sense about XRP? Why I still think it'll moon?" I would be glad to know what people think about it. But like Robot Stecklerish says, I'm saying there's a chance. Not that it will moon, but that, your conviction in it could pay off. And the most important thing, whatever you're buying, is to have a well-informed sense of conviction, not to borrow someone else's. It's okay to be a contrarian, but you should know why you're doing what you're doing and be nimble to data. And if you wanted to learn more about XRP, I would spend some time on the XRP Ledger website. That's going to tell you what the ledger is built to do, the current state of it, how many people are there who are operating validator nodes, who gives them power and authority to do that. How does that compare to a network like Ethereum? You could ask GPT that. You could ask Claude that. You could look at the supply, see who holds it. You could look at who builds there. You could ask your favorite AI, LLM, who are their competitors? For example, in the remittance and cross-border payment space, I would say their competitors are Tether, USDC, companies like Agora, even other people who are building out infrastructure to do that. And then just take a look as if you were evaluating them from a person who might invest in a business, a person who's a consumer who might use a business's product and say, what is the product? Do people like it? What are the hurdles that stand in its way? Just a competitive analysis. My frank and brief assessment is that Ripple as a company is well-funded. They hire some very smart people. As an ecosystem, they're less well-developed than a lot of their competitors. In the smart contract space, everyone is more developed pretty much, most notably Ethereum. I would say in the payments and remittances space, Tether and USDC have a huge head start, and it's not even close. And everybody else after that is kind of an afterthought, including Ripple. I don't know, Alex, if you have anything to add, but it's always good to touch that a lot because I know a lot of people hear about XRP on social media and always want to know what we think.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm so tired of it as a thing, and genuinely my answer at this point is I don't care. I don't care. It's XRP. The only thing I would say about it is that it's the victim of more conspiracy theories and more bullshit than any other project in the entire industry. So just keep that in mind when you listen to people. It also is pretty much guaranteed to get you engagement, whether you're shit talking it or lauding it. So most people without much to say just talk about XRP because they know it gets them attention.
Jay Heat mentioned Tether is coming to the US. Did you see it? And that was one of the headlines that I wanted to point out is that this last weekend, when Donald Trump signed the Genius Act into law, not only was Coinbase's Brian Armstrong in the front row, but do you know who else was in the front row and even got a shout out from the president? The CEO of that sometimes disgraced, not compliant in the US company, Tether. He was personally invited to watch the president sign. He is the biggest purchaser of US debt in the form of treasury bills. And now he's got a little shout out from the president, a little shout out, a little handshake. Not DJ Willie Quiggs, the current CEO of Tether, Paolo Arduino. So maybe the people who FUD Tether as not being compliant enough for the US are about to get a rude awakening. But either way, you got Brian Armstrong, who might as well be Mr. USDC, and Mr. Tether in the front row when you're signing the Genius Act to give stablecoins legs. Yep. I don't know, man. That's rough. If you're RLUSD, you're sitting looking at that going, damn it. Oh, yeah. You're upset at that. You're not feeling good.
It's yet another example of, okay, cool. Like whoever might be poised to do whatever, all that's all well and good. But guess what? Someone else is like actively doing the thing.
Is doing
right
it.
now. Yeah, to the tune of 100,000 million billion times more. And then there's Tether, just far and away. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. Again, like I said, I don't care because it's boring. There's nothing interesting about it whatsoever. It's a giant corporate company that does corporate stuff, and they have a token. And that's the gamble. The gamble you're taking is that they're corporate enough to do corporate things. But like, guess what? BlackRock essentially has a token too. Everything that they touch becomes like something that they have a vested interest in. Who's bigger and more powerful, BlackRock or Ripple? I don't know. It's just boring to me. It's okay. It's a big ass company doing corporate stuff. Cool. A tale as old as time. This is the United States. All it is companies doing corporate stuff. I don't care. I just don't care. I'm so tired of hearing and talking about XRP. I want to talk about things that are like doing something interesting.
Someone else asked us about Solana. And I know you're a Sol Maxi because you're buying it and selling it in profit every time.
Yeah, I'm a
so what's
Maxi.
got your eye then?
Well, I mean, so the givens, Bitcoin always, Ethereum for the fact that it's constantly in the social sphere. It's always being talked about, regardless of whether or not you're complaining about it or lauding it. It still is where most of the money lives. So that's always a thing. Plus, inflows on the ETFs are doing stuff. People who are thinking that perhaps, Bitcoin's only going to hit, whatever price by this point or something, are thinking like, well, ETH has been underperforming. Now it's been doing relatively well recently. I mean, what's it at now? 39.
It's really flirting with 4,000.
Yeah.
A friend of ours on Twitter, the White Whale, made a charity bet with somebody that it would hit 4,000 within a certain time frame, and he honored the bet and donated to a dog rescue. So shout out for dog rescues. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I did see that. I mean, that's a so that's the thing. It's always got mind share. Tremendous amount of the space is built there. It's also like the established one. So people who are like looking to do something are probably going to be EVM. It has a tremendous amount of top layer. There's a bunch of layer twos that all have a bunch of cool shit going for them. So there's all of that. Solana I swing trade because the price is more volatile and it just moves around a lot. And I'm also not like worried that if I keep it, it's going to go to zero. So that's why I do the trading with that one. It's not, it's also a reflection of the fact that that's where the users are largely. That's like where people who are just like looking to do something really quick, who are looking to experiment on chain for the first time, a lot of them do it there because it's easy, it's fast, and it's cheap. And there's apps there. So it's mostly just a reflection of the fact that ecosystem does more revenue than any other blockchain on the planet, including Ethereum. There's more app revenue flowing through Solana, that's what you need. You got to have the company's got to make money, and they got to make money from something other than just selling tokens. So, there's that. If the only thing that the blockchain you're looking at ever makes any revenue from is the foundation selling tokens, then I would be worried.
Somebody asked, isn't Solana in a $5.5 billion lawsuit right now? And I just want to clarify, no, they're not. Pump.fun and Jito, two protocols on Solana, were named in an amended RICO suit that says meme coins are a total gambling scheme. This is a class action suit. It's filed in New York. And it looks like the Solana Foundation was named, but it's not quite the same thing. They're related, separate. And I don't honestly know how effective the suit is going to be. This is by Berwick Law, and they have a long history of like class action lawsuits of this particular variety. I just don't think, the allegations are serious, but there's a lot of room. There's a lot of room here for this. To go either way. I don't think the way things are, and I'm certainly not a lawyer, but I am not like worried as somebody who would buy Solana tokens by this yet. I think it's more of a broad macro reflection about, what role should blockchain companies be able to play? What should consumers be able to do there? I expect there will probably be lawsuits like this against companies like, I don't know, Polymarket. I think they're going to continue.
Probably. Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't know. Am I worried about it? No. I expect there will be more lawsuits. Are there malicious things that happen on Sol? Yeah. In the sense of people who nefariously launch tokens with the sole purpose of stealing from someone? Yeah, of course. That also happens every other blockchain that has a token, that has any tokens. People have scammed people literally everywhere that can be scammed. Base has scams. Ethereum has scams. Polygon has scams. Avalanche has scams. Everything's got scams. It's a thing. The fact that someone would be so angry or write off an entire ecosystem because of the presence of a scam, or even worse, because of the presence of gambling, which is hysterical to say about a venture industry that is like largely built on the back of speculation at this point, because of how early it is, would be like your employer offering you a matched 401k and you telling them that you actually don't believe in 401ks because someone on the other side of the country is currently playing a slot machine in Las Vegas, also with dollars. It's that stupid.
Yeah, and Berwick specifically, I mentioned, they filed another separate claim against Pump.Fund in January, and it seems to me like their PR strategy, they have enough money that their PR strategy is to get into really big lawsuits to name a lot of public defendants like Solana in order to generate headlines. And when you're a lawyer of this kind, you got to have a lot of cases. You're almost like a venture capitalist or like a pig butchering scammer. You are throwing a lot of fish out, a lot of worms out there to try and catch one big fish. Not every one of these lawsuits is gonna hit. Anyone anywhere can file a lawsuit at any time, and they can generate press releases. All press is good press. I definitely think that there will be lawsuits that have an impact on ecosystems as valid as Solana. Phil Fried says that's nonsense, but that's the way it is. Reputation is everything. And they're making a play at reputation. But I think based on Berwick Law's track record, which you should Google, don't take my word for it. You can see that is a popular PR strategy that this particular law firm uses. They're throwing a lot of worms out there, naming big clients. And most of the time, these lawsuits, they don't go anywhere. Does that mean they're like not valid? No. But it means that when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. When you're a law firm and you got money, what are you going to do? Have high profile lawsuits, baby. Call us Berwick Law. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're like crypto ambulance chasers. Their names are everywhere. Alex, can I share one more thing before we ride our dogs and ponies into the sunset? Okay.
Yep.
I happened to hear last week a podcast. I mentioned that was my big investment. The podcast I listened to last week is by Operation Shamrock. This is a new resource to me, okay? Everybody in our sphere is concerned about all of the scams and schemes in crypto, right? And the most common type of scam we've talked about a lot lately is called pig butchering. This is where the scammer, they have like a fake website, maybe that looks like a invest and earn passive crypto. We have all these satisfied customers, or maybe it looks like somebody who appears to be Alex sends you a DM and says, hey, just checking on my followers. I saw you followed me and you're interested in crypto. How is your trading going? Eventually, these kind of scammers, whether they look like Alex or you met them on a dating site, they lure you to a bad website. They try to pull some personal piece of information out of you in order to take your money, your identity, to scam you. And it's called pig butchering after the practice of fattening a pig up before you slaughter it. It's super prevalent. And Erin West is an expert. She's formerly a prosecutor. She's done a lot to investigate cybercrime. She's been doing this for years. She's kind of in the end of her career. I think she's almost 60. And she has a foundation called Operation Shamrock. It's a nonprofit. And they are specifically interested in spreading awareness and advocating for victims of pig butchering. And last week, she has this podcast called Stolen, the Stolen Podcast with Erin West. She does a lot of episodes with people who've been like the victims of pig butchering scams like us, or people who follow us. But man, she did this interview last week, or that I heard last week, where she interviewed a fellow who used to work as a scammer. I think there's this perception in our space that these scammers, they're like the lowest of the low, like what losers. Sometimes people in our comments will send them a message and be like, stop scamming me, you low life, whatever. We hate them. But this podcast and her work has revealed to me, I have learned that a significant majority of the scammers who are reaching out to you for pig butchering, they are enslaved, trafficked people from mostly global South countries who have been scammed themselves into scamming you. She told the story of little Q. He's from Uganda. He's a gospel artist. And he was working a regular job, but had a lot of brothers and sisters, didn't have as much money as he would like to help his family. When he heard about a job in Thailand, working as a receptionist at a grocery store, which sounds odd to us, but apparently that's like a thing in lots of parts of the world. And it was going to pay him well. He knew the guy had been a customer at his own like store where he worked currently and was like, okay, sure, I'll try it. Got to the airport, got picked up in a country where he knows nobody, doesn't know the language. And they took him to this office complex that had like sleeping quarters, meager, miserable stuff, and all the means to keep him and other people like him detained every hour of their waking lives. And he was forced to work to send hundreds of messages a day to people online, trying to lure them into pig butchering scams and take their money. If he didn't do it, he would be punished. He would be tortured. He would be deprived food. He saw people killed, and was only able to escape because he like confiscated a phone and turned his location on and contacted his family, and they found him. But I was shocked to learn how prevalent this is, that most of the people who are on the other side of your scam are people like little Q who are literally enslaved and forced to do this. So I will put the podcast episode in the chat. Stolen is the name of the show. OperationShamrock.org is the resource, and Dr. Erin West is the expert. I'm going to reach out to her because I'd really like to have her on the show. I think she is one of the people who's really doing the work, who could advance like our cause here on TikTok to help stop impersonators from scamming our folks, and maybe even better, bring some justice to those people who don't have any. It was a wild listen. It was wild.
That's great. Yeah. And it's every day. I see them. I see the attempts hundreds of thousands of times a day. It's really like it. I was telling Evan this the other day, because I know that given the nature of TikTok's climate right now, and the fact that we had this like extortion attempt on accounts, and accounts got banned and whatever, that a couple of us have made backup accounts. And honestly, I'm like, I haven't made one just because for me it's not worth it, because I find that every time I've had to like make the disclaimer, like, okay, I'll never reach out to you, but if I was going to, this is how it would be. It's just like, as much as it sucks, because the reason that any of this exists is because of all of the interactions that we have with everyone. But like at this point, it's too dangerous, which is so sad to say. But like, no, I'm never going to message you, ever. I will never do it, because it's not safe. Because if I sit here and say anything other than I will never do it, there's always going to be room for doubt that like, well, maybe this is that one time that they would. And then all of a sudden your wallet's connected to something and you lose it, or whatever. Like I will literally never reach out, ever. Neither will Evan.
No.
Neither will Will. Never. If anyone tries to get a hold of you for anything, ever, anywhere, you should assume that it is a scam, and you should not trust that conversation. You should not trust that person. You should not send them anything. You should not agree to anything. You should not interact with it at all. Assume it's all a scam. Assume anyone who DMs you in crypto is a scam. In finance, if you're on TikTok and you're trying to learn about stocks, and you're watching someone like our friend Ken Suna, he has a gajillion impersonators too. He will never reach out to you. It doesn't matter. Traditional finance, someone who just talks about like saving for retirement and how to use different tax sheltered strategy, anyone in finance has impersonators. They will never reach out to you, ever. Yeah. And it sucks so bad that that's like the case, but like it's literally not safe.
And if you don't interact with them, they can't hurt you. Same thing for those junk tokens you see in your wallet that you didn't ask for. They just appeared. If you don't interact with them, they can't hurt you. The scammers are counting on you to interact. Just block them. Just ignore them. And if you've got questions, this is a good place to ask. So, my friends, it's that time.
I will absolutely die on this.
We're dying on the hill, and we're riding our dogs and ponies into the sunset. And you can catch us back here tomorrow, same time, same place, wherever you are, whenever you listen. And if you need the links, you want to share them with your friends or something like that, they will be at the riseupmorningshow.com. replit.com. So thank you, my friends, for being the very best part of what we do. Until next time, everybody, stay safe. Be well, my friends.